Good day, everyone. My name is Almin Mayfave, and today we're going to explore how to interpret graphs of relations and functions using two powerful visual tools, which is the vertical line test and the horizontal line test. And we'll connect these concepts to real life situations so the ideas feel natural and easy to understand. Into your mind when you hear the word relation. What is a relation? So a relation is any pairing between inputs and outputs. So for example, consider students and their favorite drinks, and each student is an input and their favorite beverage is the output. This is a relation which is simple and flexible. So as you can see here in our example, student 1 loves coffee and student 2 loves juice and milk tea. So for the real world application or the real world analogy, here we have example is two students. So student 1 loves color red, orange, yellow, and green, while student 2 loves green also, blue, and violet. So the inputs here are the students, which is the student 1 and student 2, and the output here is the colors, which is the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. So what is a function? So a function is a special type of relation where each input corresponds to exactly one input. For example, here we have our student 1 who loves math and student 2 who loves science. Our input is the students, the student 1 and student 2, and our output is the subjects. Here we can see that each student corresponds exactly to one output. And and to make it easier, this idea of one input to one output is what we visually check in graphs. A real world analogy is a function is like a school ID number and a student. Each student has exactly one, and no two people share the same ID. So, this idea of one input and one output is what we visually check in graphs. So, our input here is the student, and our output here is the student ID number. Now, let's move on to vertical line test. What is a vertical line test? So, the vertical line test helps us determine if a graph represents a function. If a vertical line intersects the graph only once at any point, the relation is a function. If it touches the graph twice or more, then one input leads to multiple outputs, which is not allowed in function. So here we have example 1, which is the parabola. In this parabola, any vertical line drawn will touch the graph exactly once. So, therefore, one x value corresponds to only one y value. And here we have example number 2. So, in example number 2, we have circle. When we apply the vertical line test to a circle, the vertical line touches the graph twice, and this means only x value has two y values, which violates the function rule. So, there we can conclude that a circle is not a function. So, here we have the horizontal line test. So, horizontal line test checks whether a function is one to one, and one-to-one means each output is paired with exactly one input. So if any horizontal line touches the graph more than once, the function is not one-to-one. For example, here, our example A, one x value corresponds to one y value, and graph never loops back on itself. So for the example 2, example B is 3x values for one y value. So, many x value corresponds to one y value. Here we have example number 1, which is parabola. A parabola is y is equals to x squared fails the horizontal line test because many horizontal lines intersect it twice. So this tells us that the function is not one-to-one, meaning it does not have any inverse function. Now let's move on to example number 2, which is the diagonal line. Here, the graph passes both the vertical and horizontal line test. It is a function and it is one-to-one. And this kind of graph represents relationships where each input and output is uniquely paired. And to sum it all up, we use the vertical line test to check if a graph is function, and the horizontal line test is to determine if a function is one-to-one. And these visual tools helps us quickly understand the behavior of a relation without needing any equations. And also a reminder that never forget that the never forget that vertical is up and down and horizontal is side to side. And now let's have a quick test or quiz. So use the vertical line test to determine if the graph is a function and use the horizontal line test to see if a function is one-to-one. And I'll give you 5 minutes to answer this and we'll check later on. So to answer is graph 1 in the vertical line test, it fails and it is not a function. And for the horizontal line test, it passes because it is a one-to-one relation. And for the graph 2 vertical line test, it passes the vertical line test and it is a function. And for the horizontal line test, it fails and it is not one-to-one. And the answer is function and function but not one-to-one. And for the graph 3, for the vertical line test, it passes, which means it is a function. And for the horizontal line test, it also passes and it is one to one. So it is a function and it is one to one. That is all for our video tutorial and I hope you learned something from